The first thing Officer Daniel Whitaker did was move the gray plastic tray out of her reach. Not by much. Just 6 inches. Enough to make Judge Maya Ellison pause with her federal ID between 2 fingers, while rainwater ticked off the hem of her camel coat onto the marble floor. Outside, the flag over the United States District Court snapped like a whip in the dark morning wind, and the courthouse doors breathed cold air every time someone came in shaking umbrellas. Maya had arrived before sunrise, the judge's entrance glowing down the side alley behind her. Untouched, unused. She had seen it. She had walked past it on purpose. Now she stood at the public security checkpoint with a worn leather briefcase in one hand and a black garment bag folded over her arm, while Whitaker looked from her silk scarf to her shoes and gave the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "Ma'am," he said, stretching the word. "Traffic court's 2 blocks over." The brass letters above his shoulder said United States District Court, polished bright enough to catch the lobby lights. Maya set her ID in the tray anyway. "I have business upstairs." A man behind her sighed and shifted his rolling briefcase. A woman in a tan trench coat checked her watch. The metal detector hummed, steady and indifferent. Whitaker leaned one hip against the table. His nameplate read D. Whitaker, and the badge under it caught the light when he folded his arms. "Everybody's got business upstairs." He said it louder than he needed to, loud enough for the line to hear. A soft laugh came from somewhere behind Maya, then died quickly when she turned her head just enough to let silence answer it. A white attorney stepped around the rope stanchion with a paper coffee cup in one hand and his bar card in the other. "Morning, Dan," he said, already lifting his briefcase onto the belt. "Running late for Judge Caro." Whitaker barely glanced at him. "Go ahead, Mr. Felton. You're good." The attorney walked through with his belt on, phone in his pocket, shoes squeaking wet against the floor. No wand, no bag opened, no questions. Maya watched him disappear toward the elevators, then looked back at Whitaker. "You didn't screen him. I know who he is. You haven't read my identification." Whitaker picked up her ID between 2 fingers, turned it halfway, and slid it back down without letting his eyes settle on the seal. "And I don't like being rushed before 7 in the morning." Maya's hand remained still at her side, but one raindrop slipped from her sleeve and darkened the cuff of her suit. "No one is rushing you, officer." "Good." He tapped the tray with 2 knuckles. "Then you won't mind a full inspection." The conveyor belt jerked forward. Her briefcase bumped against the rubber flap and stopped. Whitaker pulled it back himself, snapped the latches open without asking, and began removing its contents one by one. A fountain pen, a marked copy of the local rules, a sealed cream folder stamped confidential, another folder with the blue border of a federal commission, and finally the garment bag. When he unzipped it, black fabric showed under the fluorescent lights. He pinched the robe at the shoulder and lifted it like something left behind at a laundromat. "This yours?" Maya's jaw set for half a breath. "Those are court materials. Handle them carefully." "Court materials," he repeated, and this time the laugh in his voice had an audience. He held the robe higher. "Everybody wants to play lawyer these days." Behind her, the line went very quiet, except for the rain tapping hard against the glass doors. Then, from the elevator bank, a young man carrying a stack of case files stepped out, saw Maya, and stopped so suddenly the top folder slid halfway from his arms. Ben Ortiz caught the folder against his chest and pressed it flat with both hands, his knuckles whitening around the manila edges. "Judge," he started, and the word came out thin, almost swallowed by the hum of the conveyor belt. Maya's eyes found his across the lobby. One small shake of her head, barely more than the movement of a breath. Ben's mouth closed. His face stayed pale above his Navy clerk's badge, and he stepped back beside the elevator as if the marble under his shoes had turned slick. Whitaker noticed. Of course he did. His gaze flicked from Ben to Maya, then to the robe still hanging from his fingers. "You got friends in the building?" he asked. Maya held out her hand for the robe. "I have an appointment." That wasn't the question. It was the answer. A deputy at the second scanner coughed into his fist. Not quite a laugh, not quite warning. The line behind her had grown to 12 people now, umbrellas dripping into a long, dirty shine across the floor. Someone whispered, "Come on." Under their breath, Maya could feel the minutes stacking against her. Upstairs, courtroom 7B would already be unlocked. The court reporter would be setting a fresh stenograph roll. Her chief clerk would be watching the empty bench and pretending not to watch the clock. This was her first morning presiding in this district, the morning her name would be spoken into the record here for the first time, and Whitaker was holding her robe like a prop. He dropped it onto the table instead of handing it back. The zipper teeth scraped against the plastic. "Shoes off." Maya looked at him. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." He pointed toward a rubber mat beside the scanner. "Shoes. Belt if you've got one. Coat too. That was not required of the gentleman before me. He's known to security. You did not know him well enough to screen his phone." Whitaker's smile tightened at the corners. "Ma'am, if you want to argue policy, there's a complaint form somewhere online. Right now, you're holding up my checkpoint." Maya lowered her briefcase lid slowly, but he put his palm on it before it could close. The pressure of his hand flattened the corner of the blue-bordered commission folder, bending the heavy paper beneath it. For the first time, something moved across Maya's face that the lobby could see. Not anger, something older. She had carried that folder in her lap on the train the day it arrived, her mother's silver cross tucked in the pocket of the same briefcase, the ink still smelling faintly sharp when she opened it at her kitchen table. Her father had touched the embossed seal with one finger and said nothing for a full minute. Now Whitaker thumbed through it like coupons. "Certificate, certificate," he muttered. "Anybody can print nice paper." Maya's voice came lower. "Do not damage that. Then comply." He reached for the cream folder stamped confidential. Ben took one step forward. "Officer Whitaker, I really think—" Maya turned just enough for Ben to see her face, and whatever he saw stopped him again. Whitaker slid a finger under the seal on the folder. "If your business upstairs is so important," he said, "you won't mind showing me what's inside." Maya placed 2 fingers on top of the cream folder before the seal tore. "Not hard, just enough. That folder is sealed by federal order," she said. "If you open it in this lobby, you will create a record of disclosure." Whitaker looked at her hand as if it had landed on his uniform. "Move your fingers. Call your supervisor." It was the first thing she had asked for, and the line heard it. The man with the rolling briefcase lifted his eyebrows. The woman in the trench coat stopped, pretending to check her watch. Ben stood near the elevator with the case files hugged to his chest. His lips pressed together so tightly they had gone pale. Whitaker's face changed by half an inch. The smile stayed, but the skin around his eyes flattened. "So now you're refusing screening. I am asking you not to break a court seal." "No," he said louder, turning slightly toward the deputy at the other scanner. "Subject is refusing standard procedure." The word subject moved through the lobby colder than the rain blowing under the door. Maya took her hand away. Whitaker slid the folder back and forth beneath his palm, making the seal whisper against the plastic table, then let it go unopened, as if he had decided to be generous. "Shoes," he said. Maya looked down at the wet rubber mat. Muddy prints overlapped there, brown and gray, the shape of other people's mornings. "Officer." You let 3 people through while holding my materials. Shoes. The deputy at the second scanner glanced at the brass clock over the elevators. 6:52. Then away. Maya bent, unfastened one heel, then the other. The marble was cold through her stockings. One damp spot soaked into the ball of her right foot as she stepped onto the mat. Someone behind her exhaled through their teeth. Whitaker lifted her shoes, checked inside them with a pen, and set them on the far end of the table, out of reach. Coat. She removed the camel coat. Rain still purled along the shoulders, and folded it over her arm. On the belt. It's wet. Then it'll dry. He pointed to the magnetometer. Arms out. She walked through. The machine stayed silent. Whitaker still took the wand from its hook. He ran it along her sleeves, her waist, the scarf pinned around her hair. When it chirped near the small silver cross in her jacket pocket, he gave a short laugh. There it is. Maya removed the cross slowly and placed it in the tray beside her federal ID, beside the commission he had creased, beside the robe he had held up for strangers. Her phone, face up in the bin, lit with a silent buzz. Chambers. Then another message appeared beneath it. Sealed matter ready. Where are you? Whitaker saw it before she could reach. He picked up the phone and turned the screen toward himself. Sealed matter, he read. That's supposed to impress me? Maya's voice stayed even, but Ben heard the edge under it. Do not read my messages. Then don't bring unauthorized devices into my checkpoint. My device has already passed through your scanner. Not while you're under secondary review. He dropped the phone back into the tray, hard enough that the sound cracked against the plastic. The screen went dark. At 6:54, the elevator doors opened behind Ben, and a broad-shouldered man in a supervisor's jacket stepped into the lobby, coffee in hand. Whitaker straightened before the man had taken 3 steps and called out, Sarge, I've got a possible unauthorized access attempt tied to the sealed hearing upstairs. The supervisor stopped beside the table, coffee steam curling into the fluorescent light, and looked first at the open briefcase, then at Maya standing in stocking feet on the wet mat. His jacket said Pierce over the pocket. The name tugged at something in her memory. A personnel chart she had reviewed at 4:30 that morning, before the rain started, before she left the private judge's entrance behind on purpose. Sergeant Thomas Pierce. Shift supervisor. 21 years. 2 commendations. 3 complaints marked unfounded. Pierce's eyes moved to the blue-bordered commission folder, then to the robe, then finally to Maya's face. His expression flickered. Ma'am, he said slowly. Do I, Sarge? Whitaker cut in, smooth as polished stone. She presented questionable paperwork, refused inspection of sealed materials, challenged screening procedure, and became verbally non-compliant when I attempted secondary review. The words landed neat and official, each one dressed up to hide the dirt underneath. Maya watched Pierce absorb them. She had seen that exact thing in court before. A bad fact wrapped in confident language until decent people hesitated to touch it. Ben shifted near the elevator, his files trembling just enough for the paper edges to whisper. That is not accurate, he said, voice cracking on accurate. Whitaker turned his head. Clerk, unless you're assigned to security, I'd step back. Ben's cheeks flushed red. She's Mr. Ortiz, Maya said. Not sharp, not loud, but the way she said his name made him stop. His throat moved as he swallowed. Pierce noticed that too. Maya bent and picked up her shoes, one at a time, brushing grit from the inside with her thumb before slipping them back on. The damp stockings clung cold to her feet. She reached into the briefcase, removed a small black notebook, and opened it to a fresh page. The pen clicked once. Officer, your full name and badge number. Whitaker gave a laugh through his nose. You planning to file that online complaint? Your name and badge number. Pierce looked at Whitaker now. Give it to her. A beat passed. The lobby held still around them. The belt humming, rain pattering the glass. The brass clock above the elevators ticking towards 6:56. Daniel Whitaker, he said. Badge 4173. Maya wrote it down in careful block letters. Then she wrote Pierce's name. Then the time. Then, without looking up, Mr. Felton, white male, waved through at approximately 6:44 with phone and belt. Woman in gray suit, waved through at 6:49. Mail courier, no bag inspection, 6:51. The deputy at the second scanner stopped moving. Whitaker's face lost a shade of color. Pierce set his coffee on the table, the paper cup making a soft wet ring beside Maya's commission. Ma'am, he said, lower now. May I see your identification? Maya slid the federal ID toward him. This time someone actually read it. Pierce's thumb froze over the seal. His eyes lifted fast to hers, and the apology formed on his mouth before he found the courage to say it. Maya gave the smallest shake of her head again, not to silence him completely this time, but to tell him where not to do it. Not here. Not as theater. Not after letting Whitaker build a stage out of her dignity. Her phone buzzed again in the tray. Pierce glanced down. The screen lit up with one line from Chambers. Counsel present. Marshal asking whether to delay. Maya picked up the phone before Whitaker could touch it. Her thumb was steady when she typed only 3 words. Hold the courtroom. Then she looked at Pierce. I need my materials returned exactly as they were. Pierce began gathering the folders with both hands, careful now, almost reverent. Whitaker leaned close enough that only she and Pierce could hear him. If she goes upstairs on my clearance and something happens in that sealed hearing, that's on you, Sarge. Pierce paused, caught between rank and fear. The elevator behind Ben chimed open, spilling warm light across the lobby floor, and Whitaker stepped in front of it before Maya could move. Restricted floors, he said, one palm raised. Not without proof you belong back there. Pierce's hand came up, not as high as Whitaker's, but firmer. Dan, step aside. Whitaker didn't move. His palm stayed open in front of Maya like a stop sign, and the cuff of his sleeve rode up enough to show a pale strip of wrist. Sarge, with respect, I'm not putting my badge on the line because somebody has fancy paperwork. Pierce's eyes cut toward the ID still in his hand. It's not fancy paperwork. Then put her on the access roster. Whitaker pointed toward the clipboard chained to the podium beside the elevator. Judges, marshals, cleared staff. If she's on it, I'll open the gate myself. Maya looked at the clipboard. Her name was not there. She had made sure of that at 5:12 that morning, when she signed the order requiring a plainclothes entry review through the public checkpoint. The test was supposed to be quiet, controlled, 10 minutes at most. Not a wet coat, bent commission, and her robe handled in a lobby full of strangers. Pierce lowered his voice. Ma'am, I can escort you. Maya slid her ID from his fingers and tucked it into the inside pocket of her suit. No, Whitaker's eyebrows lifted. No. She gathered the cream folder, the blue commission folder, the robe, the silver cross. Each item returned to its place with small, precise movements. If the officer is applying a rule, let the rule be applied exactly as he understands it. Pierce understood before Whitaker did. His shoulders sank a fraction. Judge, sergeant, one word, quiet, stopped him cold. Whitaker looked between them, suspicion sharpening his face, but not knowledge. Not yet. Maya closed the briefcase, lifted the garment bag over her arm, and stepped away from the restricted elevator toward the public hallway. The marble floor gave back the sound of her heels, damp and uneven from the mat. Ben hurried after her, keeping 2 steps behind, his case files clutched against his tie. "There's a staff stair near the jury room," he whispered. "If I swipe you through, you won't. But they're waiting." "I know." At the alcove by the pay phones, where the wall smelled faintly of old dust and lemon cleaner, Maya stopped beneath a framed evacuation map and dialed chambers from the black courthouse phone. Her fingers left tiny rain marks on the receiver. "Porter," came the chief clerk's voice, clipped and strained. In the background, Maya heard the low murmur of lawyers, a chair scraping, the marshal's radios popping softly. "It's Ellison." The breath on the other end caught. "Judge, where are you?" "Public lobby. Delayed by security. Start without me if you must, but do not move the hearing." A pause. Paper shuffled. Then Elaine Porter's voice dropped so low Maya had to press the receiver tighter to her ear. "Judge, the supplemental index came in from internal review 6 minutes ago. Badge 4173 is named in the declarations." Maya's eyes shifted toward the lobby, where Whitaker was leaning toward the deputy, talking with his hands now, rebuilding the morning in his own version. "How many?" she asked. 9. 2 attorneys, 1 interpreter, a minister from Baltimore, 3 family members. And there's more. The rain beat harder against the glass doors, a steady drumming that filled the space between words. Elaine continued, "Your temporary audio order went live at 6:30. Lobby checkpoint 1 is recording. Everything since then is preserved." Maya closed her eyes for 1 second. Not relief, not satisfaction. The kind of stillness that comes when a door you thought was locked opens onto a deeper room. She had come to observe a pattern. The pattern had put its name on the record and spoken into a microphone. "Seal the feed," Maya said. "Chain of custody through the marshal only." "Already done." Another scrape of a chair. Then Elaine whispered, "Counsel for the security office is arguing your absence should be noted before any testimony. He says it raises a question of control." Maya looked down at her robe, folded over her forearm, the same shoulder seam Whitaker had pinched between 2 fingers. "Tell the deputy to call the room to order." "Judge, from the public side?" Ben stared at her, eyes wide, as if the courthouse itself had shifted under his shoes. Maya hung up the receiver, slid the garment bag zipper down, and pulled the black robe into her hands. Behind her, the elevator chimed, and Whitaker's voice carried across the marble. "You still haven't proved you belong up there." Maya turned toward courtroom 7B's public corridor, robe over her arm, while the deputy's voice boomed from beyond the double doors. "All rise." The words rolled through the double doors and spilled into the public corridor before Maya reached them, and for 1 narrow second she saw herself reflected in the brass pushplate. Camel coat over 1 arm, robe in the other, scarf still pinned neat above a face the lobby had tried to reduce to a problem. Ben reached for the door, but Maya shook her head again and opened it herself. The hinges gave a low groan. Every head in courtroom 7B turned toward the back instead of the bench. Lawyers stood halfway, caught between respect and confusion. The court reporter's fingers hovered above the keys. A marshal near the rail looked from the empty bench to Maya, then straightened so fast his radio knocked against the wood. Elaine Porter stood at counsel table with a Redwell folder pressed to her ribs, her silver glasses low on her nose. She did not say judge. Not yet. She only stepped toward Maya and whispered, "Robing room is through chambers." "No," Maya said, just loud enough for the first row to hear. "Here." Elaine's eyes flicked once toward the gallery. Then she understood. She opened the Redwell on the nearest table and shielded the contents from the room while Maya set down her briefcase. Inside were the declarations Elaine had mentioned, each tab labeled with a name and a date. Read, attorney, stopped 5:58 a.m. Reverend Miles Carter, visitor, denied entry with pastoral credentials. Nadine Okafor, interpreter, searched twice in 1 week. And beneath those, clipped separately in blue, was the entry protocol Maya had signed before dawn. Plain access observation. No judicial identification to be announced unless safety requires. The line had been hers. The silence had been part of the order. Ben saw it over Elaine's shoulder and went still. His face changed, not with surprise exactly, but with the sick little recognition of a person realizing he had been standing inside a test and had nearly broken it for the right reason. Maya unfolded the robe. The fabric made a soft, heavy sound as it fell open. The same robe Whitaker had pinched like laundry. She slipped one arm in, then the other. Elaine moved behind her and lifted the collar into place, careful not to touch the damp edge of Maya's suit jacket. The room watched the ordinary woman from the back row become the court in front of them. No music, no speech, just black cloth settling over her shoulders. At defense table, a narrow-faced attorney with a gold watch leaned toward his co-counsel and murmured, 20 minutes late on her first sealed docket. His whisper carried farther than he meant it to. Maya heard it. So did half the room. She picked up the sealed cream folder, now marked by the faint pressure of Whitaker's thumb, and walked the center aisle toward the bench. Each heel strike landed clean against the wood floor. When she passed the marshal, he lowered his voice. Your Honor, do you want the side corridor cleared? Maya paused at the steps to the bench and looked toward the closed side door, the one that led back to security, elevators, and every person who thought the morning was already over. Not cleared, she said. Preserved. Elaine's pen stopped moving. Maya climbed to the bench, set the folder down, and finally faced the room from above. The deputy's voice had lost its boom when he said, United States District Court for the District is now in session. The Honorable Maya Ellison presiding. A ripple passed through the gallery like wind under paper. Maya Saturday, be seated. Chairs creaked. Fabric rustled. The attorney with the gold watch stayed standing. Your Honor, before we proceed, the security office wishes to note. Maya lifted one hand, and the sentence died where it stood. Elaine stepped to the clerk station with a small flash drive sealed in an evidence sleeve. On its white label, in black marker, were 3 words, Lobby 1 Audio. The evidence sleeve looked small against the dark wood of the clerk station, but every eye in the room found it. The attorney with the gold watch did too. He buttoned his jacket with 2 quick tugs and stepped into the aisle. Your Honor, Jonathan Voss for the Courthouse Security Office. We object to any use of that material before a threshold issue is addressed. Maya rested her hands on the bench, palms flat, feeling the old polish cool under her fingertips. State it. Voss's voice had the careful shine of someone who had practiced outrage in elevators. If this recording concerns an interaction involving the court personally, then the court is no longer merely presiding over an inquiry. The court is a witness, possibly a complainant. And with respect, Your Honor, the security office moves for recusal before any further proceedings. A chair creaked in the gallery. Somewhere near the back, a pen dropped and rolled until it tapped the baseboard. Maya did not look at Ben, but she could feel him shrink beside the rear doors. Voss lifted a stapled packet from his table. We have also received an incident report from Officer Whitaker, timestamped 7:03, stating that an unidentified female refused standard screening, interfered with sealed materials review, and attempted restricted floor access while absent from the judicial access roster. He turned a page. That roster, Your Honor, does not include the name Maya Ellison. The murmur this time was louder. The defense attorney leaned back with his arms folded, gold watch flashing. Elaine's jaw tightened at the clerk's station, but even she did not move. Maya saw the trap close from 3 sides at once. Her own order had removed her name from the roster. Her own order had kept Ben silent. Her own order had sent her through the front door with no announcement and no escort. On paper, Whitaker had the cleaner story. Voss set the packet down as if laying a brick. My client's position is simple. This morning's delay was not caused by security misconduct. It was caused by an undisclosed judicial operation that placed line officers in an impossible position and then converted their compliance into evidence against them. The words reached the bench dry and sharp. Impossible position. Compliance. Evidence against them. Maya's commission folder sat beside her left hand, its bent corner visible under the cream seal. In the first row, one of the complainants, a gray-haired minister in a rain-dark overcoat, lowered his eyes to his hat. A black woman at the interpreter's table pressed 2 fingers to the bridge of her nose. They had come to speak, and now the first thing they heard was that the judge herself might have ruined the hearing. The marshal approached the bench with a folded note and handed it up without a sound. Maya opened it. Pierce had requested instruction. Whitaker remained on lobby duty. Lobby camera 1 had maintenance interruption from 6:41 to 7:02. Audio intact. No video. For the first time that morning, Maya let her eyes close for half a second. When she opened them, Voss was watching her like he had already won. "Your Honor," he said softly, "if you proceed, we will seek emergency review by the Chief Judge before noon." Rain struck the tall courtroom windows in hard silver lines. Maya folded the note once, then again, and placed it beside the flash drive. "Mr. Voss," she said, "your objection is preserved." He started to speak, but she looked to the deputy. "Call Officer Daniel Whitaker." The side door latch clicked. The side door opened 3 inches, then wider, and Officer Daniel Whitaker stepped in with his shoulders squared and his chin lifted, the same way he had stood in the lobby with Maya's robe pinched between his fingers. His wet black shoes squeaked once on the polished floor. He looked first at Voss, then at the marshal, then toward the witness chair. Only when the deputy said, "Officer, face the bench," did his eyes climb. They found the black robe, then the face above it. The color drained out of him so cleanly it seemed to leave him older. His mouth parted, but no sound came. Maya let the silence hold. Rain ticked against the tall windows. The court reporter's hands hovered, waiting. "Officer Whitaker," Maya said, her voice carrying without effort, "please raise your right hand." His hand came up slowly, fingers stiff. The deputy administered the oath and Whitaker answered, "I do," in a voice that had lost the lobby's hard shine. He sat in the witness chair, one knee bouncing until Voss shot him a look. Maya opened the small black notebook she had used beside the checkpoint. The pages made a dry whisper under the microphone. "This morning at approximately 6:44, did you permit Mr. Felton to enter this courthouse with his belt on, phone in his pocket, and bag unopened?" Voss rose halfway. "Objection. Relevance. Overruled." Maya did not look away from Whitaker. "Answer." Whitaker swallowed. The microphone caught it. "He's known to security. Did you read my federal identification before ordering a full inspection?" His eyes flicked to Voss. "I inspected what was presented. That was not my question." A faint shift moved through the gallery. Maya turned one page. "Did you read it?" Whitaker's jaw worked. "No, Your Honor." The title landed on him harder than any shout could have. Maya reached beside her and lifted the bent blue-bordered commission folder. She did not wave it. She simply laid it flat where the crease caught the courtroom light. "Did you state, while handling this commission and my judicial robe, everybody wants to play lawyer these days?" The minister in the first row looked up. The interpreter's hand dropped from her face. Whitaker's ears reddened. "I don't recall the exact wording." Maya nodded once to Elaine. The clerk broke the seal on the evidence sleeve, inserted the flash drive, and a small speaker on the clerk's desk clicked alive with static. Then Whitaker's own voice filled the courtroom. Thinner but unmistakable. "Court materials. Everybody wants to play lawyer these days." No one moved. Even Voss stood frozen with one hand on the back of his chair. The recording continued. "Subject is refusing standard procedure." Then Maya's voice, low and even. "I am asking you not to break a court seal." Then Whitaker again. "You still haven't proved you belong up there." The last sentence seemed to hang under the ceiling. Maya let it fade before she spoke. "Officer Whitaker, under oath. Explain to this court how you decide who belongs in a United States courthouse." Whitaker gripped the arms of the witness chair. "Your Honor, I was following training." "Whose training?" Voss snapped upright. "Your Honor." "Sit down, Mr. Voss." The words were quiet, but the gold watch disappeared below the table. Maya leaned forward just enough that the bench microphone caught the soft rustle of her sleeve. "Officer Whitaker, the video from lobby camera 1 is missing from 6:41 to 7:02. The audio is intact. Before you answer my question about training, answer this one first." She turned her eyes toward the side door, where Sergeant Pierce now stood with a clipboard pressed against his chest. "Who ordered that camera placed under maintenance during my stop?" Pierce's fingers tightened around the clipboard until the metal clip gave a tiny snap. "No one from my office ordered it, Your Honor." Voss stood again, slower this time. "Sergeant, be careful." Pierce looked at him, then at the bench, and something in his face settled. At 6:38, Officer Whitaker radioed that Lobby 1 had glare from the west doors and requested a maintenance flag. There was no glare. It was still dark outside. The rain scratched at the windows like gravel. Whitaker's lips moved once before sound came. "Sarge?" "Answer the court," Pierce said, and his voice had no room left for favors. Maya turned back to Whitaker. "Did you request that camera be marked down before or after you saw me approach the checkpoint?" Whitaker stared at the microphone as if it had grown teeth. "Before I knew who you were." "That is not an answer." His knee stopped bouncing. "After." The court reporter's keys began clicking fast, crisp as hail. Maya let the word sit on the record. "After." Then she closed her notebook. "Officer Whitaker, you are relieved of courthouse duty effective immediately, pending formal investigation by the United States Marshal Service and referral to the appropriate disciplinary authority. Sergeant Pierce, you will surrender the lobby maintenance logs, radio traffic, access rosters, and all checkpoint audio from the past 90 days before noon." Pierce nodded once. "Yes, Your Honor." Voss opened his mouth, but Maya's eyes cut to him. "Mr. Voss, your recusal motion is denied for purposes of emergency preservation. The record will reflect that this court's presence at the public entrance was authorized by written order before the incident, that no judicial title was announced by design, and that the conduct captured this morning is not the complaint. It is evidence relevant to the complaints already before this court." She lifted the blue entry protocol, the paper soft where rain from her sleeve had touched one corner. "For years, this building has had 2 front doors. One for people whose names are expected. One for everyone else. This inquiry will include every public-facing checkpoint in this district." In the first row, Reverend Carter's hat trembled in his hands. Nadine Okafor wiped one cheek with the heel of her palm and sat straighter. Whitaker stepped down from the witness chair with the marshal beside him, his badge still shining under the lights but smaller somehow, just metal pinned to cloth. When the side door closed behind them, the room exhaled in pieces. Maya removed her glasses and looked toward the back, where Ben stood with the case files still hugged to his chest like a shield. Later, in the quiet hallway outside chambers, he found her beside the same garment bag, now folded neatly over a chair. "Judge Ellison," he said, voice rough. "I'm sorry. I knew. I should have said something." Maya slid the silver cross back into the inner pocket of her suit. "You tried. Not enough." She looked at him then, not from the bench, not from above, but eye to eye. "Next time, don't wait for the robe." Ben nodded, blinking hard, and this time he did not look away. By late morning, the rain had thinned to a mist against the courthouse glass. Downstairs, a marshal sealed the gray plastic tray from Checkpoint 1 in an evidence bag. The same tray Whitaker had moved just 6 inches out of Maya's reach before sunrise. Maya paused by the lobby on her way back up, watched a mother with a stroller, a public defender, and an elderly man in a church coat pass through the magnetometer under Pierce's careful eye. No one was waved through. No one was made a lesson. The flag outside still snapped in the wind, but the brass letters over the entrance held steady in the pale light. United States District Court. Maya adjusted the damp cuff of her camel coat, picked up her briefcase, and walked through the public doors again. Not because she had to prove she belonged, but because from that morning on,